The crisp October air of Boulder, Colorado, clung to the Flatirons like a second skin in 2001, carrying the scent of pine and impending snow. It was a town cradled by mountains, a vibrant tapestry of intellect and outdoor adventure, a place where dreams felt tangible, almost within reach. For Sarah Thompson, a 21-year-old junior at the University of Colorado Boulder, this city was more than just a college town. It was her launch pad. Her bright, inquisitive mind was devoted to environmental studies, her evenings often spent poring over textbooks in Norland Library, her weekends hiking the trails that snaked through Chautauqua Park, her laughter a familiar sound echoing through the Pearl Street Mall on a Friday night with friends. Sarah was the kind of person who made you feel seen. Her vibrant red hair often fell across her face as she scribbled notes, her hazel eyes sparkling with a keen intelligence. She worked part-time at a small, independent bookstore off Broadway, a job she cherished for the endless supply of narratives it offered. Her parents, Mark and Alina, back in Fort Collins, knew their daughter was thriving. Calls home were filled with enthusiastic updates about classes, new friends, and the endless beauty of the Colorado landscape she'd come to adore. She had a close-knit group of friends, her best friend Chloe Davies a constant presence, sharing late-night study sessions and early morning hikes. Life for Sarah was unfolding with purpose and promise. The last week of October began like any other. Sarah had a particularly challenging paper due for her advanced ecology class. She'd spent Monday and Tuesday immersed in research, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the quiet hum of the library. On Wednesday, October 24, 2001, she worked her usual shift at the bookstore until 6 p.m., chatting with regulars, recommending obscure poetry collections, and stacking shelves with meticulous care. Her manager, a soft-spoken woman named Martha, remembered Sarah's easy smile and diligent work ethic. She was talking about a hike she wanted to do this weekend up Flagstaff Mountain, Martha later recounted to police, her voice laced with a tremor of memory. Said she needed to clear her head after all that studying. After her shift, Sarah met Chloe at the small, cozy Ethiopian restaurant near campus, their usual Wednesday spot. They talked about classes, about a potential spring break trip to Moab, Utah, and about a campus political rally they were both considering attending. Chloe noted nothing unusual about Sarah's mood or demeanor. She was upbeat if a little stressed about her paper. They parted ways around 8:30 p.m., Sarah heading back towards her small off-campus apartment on 17th Street, just a few blocks from the university gates. She planned to put in a few more hours on her paper before calling it a night. "See you tomorrow for breakfast at the sink," Chloe had asked. Sarah had nodded, adjusting her backpack. "Definitely. Don't let me oversleep." But Sarah didn't make it to breakfast. Chloe waited, nursing her coffee, her gaze constantly flitting to the door. Sarah was punctual, almost obsessively so. 10 minutes late turned into 20, then 30. Chloe, feeling a prickle of unease, pulled out her flip phone, a bulky Nokia, and dialed Sarah's number. It rang, then went straight to voicemail. She tried again, then a third time. An anxious knot began to tighten in her stomach. This wasn't like Sarah. She'd always text or call if she was running late, even just by a few minutes. Concern turned to alarm by midday. Chloe had called Sarah's roommates, who hadn't seen her since late Tuesday night, assuming she'd been at the library or with Chloe. They checked her room. Her bed hadn't been slept in. Her backpack, still containing textbooks and notes, was on her desk. Her jacket was hanging on the back of her door. Her wallet and keys were gone. Her car, a beat-up Honda Civic, was still parked in its usual spot behind the apartment building. The only thing missing, it seemed, was Sarah herself. Panic set in. Chloe called Mark and Alina Thompson, her voice shaking as she recounted the morning's events. Alina, her heart plummeting, immediately tried Sarah's phone again, hoping for a miracle, but only getting the same recorded message. Mark, ever the pragmatist, urged them to call the Boulder Police Department. The initial response was measured, typical for a missing adult. "She's 21, ma'am. Adults are free to leave," the dispatcher said, a calm tone that grated on Alina's frayed nerves. But Chloe's insistence, her description of Sarah's responsible nature, finally prompted a patrol car to be dispatched to the apartment. By late afternoon, Mark and Alina were on their way from Fort Collins, the 2-hour drive feeling like an eternity of agonizing silence. When they arrived, the small apartment was already a hive of activity. Uniformed officers were meticulously documenting the scene, their faces grim. Detective Randall Miller, a seasoned investigator with a weary kindness in his eyes, was trying to piece together Sarah's last known movements. He interviewed Chloe, the roommates, Martha from the bookstore. Everyone echoed the same sentiment. Sarah was not the type to just disappear. The investigation began in earnest. Flyers with Sarah's smiling face, red hair blazing against the white paper saturated Boulder. They were taped to lampposts, bulletin boards, coffee shop windows. The local news channels picked up the story, showing grainy photos of Sarah interviewing her tearful parents. Mark and Alina set up a command center in a small hotel conference room, fielding calls, coordinating volunteer searches. Students combed the campus, trekked through Chautauqua Park, walked every street Sarah might have taken home. The Flatirons, usually a symbol of beauty, now loomed menacingly, hiding secrets. Police conducted thorough searches of her apartment, her car, her usual haunts. They checked her bank accounts, no activity. Her phone records showed no outgoing calls or texts after she'd left Chloe that Wednesday night. Her computer, an older desktop model, yielded nothing suspicious, just academic papers and emails to friends and family. There were no signs of forced entry at her apartment, no struggle. It was as if she had simply vanished into the thin Colorado air. Days bled into weeks, then months. The initial flurry of activity began to wane, replaced by a chilling silence. The volunteers thinned out. The media spotlight shifted to other tragedies, other news cycles. Detective Miller and his team tirelessly pursued every lead, no matter how small. They interviewed potential witnesses who had seen Sarah that night, but nothing concrete emerged. A few students reported seeing a red-haired woman matching Sarah's description near her apartment building around 9 p.m., but the details were fuzzy, inconsistent. Was it Sarah? Was it someone else? The leads were dead ends, phantom trails in a deepening fog. The Thompson family endured an unimaginable agony. Alina became a hollowed-out version of herself, her vibrant spirit crushed by the relentless uncertainty. Mark, usually stoic, aged visibly, the lines on his face deepening with worry and grief. They stayed in Boulder for months, renting a small apartment, refusing to leave until Sarah was found. They walked the trails she loved, sat in her favorite coffee shops, haunted the streets, hoping for a glimpse, a sign. The hope, once a fierce, burning flame, slowly flickered to a dying ember. The community, once united in their search, began to whisper theories. A runaway, a hiking accident, a chance encounter with a predatory stranger. None offered comfort. The case went cold, a file growing thicker with unhelpful reports, eventually relegated to a dusty shelf in the police department archives. 7 years passed. 7 years of birthdays uncelebrated, holidays marked by an aching absence, graduations unwitnessed. Mark and Alina eventually moved back to Fort Collins, their Boulder apartment abandoned, a constant reminder of what they'd lost. They never stopped thinking about Sarah, never stopped hoping for answers, but the raw edge of their grief had dulled into a chronic ache. Chloe, now a successful architect in Denver, still visited the Flatirons, a silent tribute to her lost friend. Boulder had moved on, built new buildings, welcomed new students, but the ghost of Sarah Thompson lingered, a silent question mark over the city's heart. Then, in the summer of 2008, something shifted. A major development project was underway on the western outskirts of Boulder, near a lesser-known, overgrown section of the Bobolink Trail system, an area not thoroughly searched in 2001 due to its remoteness and the initial focus on more populated areas. Bulldozers carved new pathways, excavators dug foundations for luxury townhomes. It was hot, dusty work. One sweltering afternoon, a young construction worker named Miguel Ramirez, operating a backhoe, struck something hard beneath a thick layer of compacted earth and tangled roots. He stopped the machine, climbed down, and brushed away the soil. What he found wasn't a rock or an old pipe. It was a small, grimy object encased in dried mud. Carefully, Miguel brought it to his foreman, who, recognizing it as an electronic device, cautiously cleaned it. It was an early model digital camera, a clunky Kodak D-Citwo 180 from the late 90s/early 2000s, water-damaged and caked with dirt. The body was cracked, the screen shattered. It looked like junk. But something compelled the foreman to hand it over to the local police, just in case. It was a long shot, but you never knew what might turn up. Detective Miller, now older, his hair grayer, was called. He remembered the Thompson case vividly. Some cases just stick to you, refuse to let go. He held the camera in his hands, a strange jolt going through him. Could it be related? The camera was sent to a forensics lab, where technicians painstakingly worked to salvage anything from it. The camera itself was dead, beyond repair. but miraculously, the compact flash card inside, encased in its protective shell, had survived the elements. The retrieval of data was a delicate, slow process. For days, Miller waited, a cautious hope building within him. Finally, the call came. The lab had managed to extract a dozen images. The first few were mundane. Photos of Sarah's cat, blurry campus shots, a selfie with Chloe, her red hair radiant in the Boulder sunshine. Then the images shifted. The last 5 photos were time-stamped, taken between 8:45 p.m. and 9:10 p.m. on October 24, 2001. The first showed Sarah's apartment door, slightly ajar, a familiar plant pot on the stoop. It was taken from an angle suggesting she had just stepped outside, perhaps to take out trash or check her mail. The next image was a quick, shaky shot, clearly unintentional, a blur of pavement and dark foliage. Perhaps her hands slipped as she was putting the camera away. But the third image froze Miller's blood. It was Sarah. Not a selfie, but a full-body shot taken from a slightly low angle. She was on a gravel path, illuminated by a faint, distant light source, the silhouette of trees looming behind her. She was wearing the clothes Chloe remembered. Jeans, a light sweater, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Her face was turned away, looking towards something out of frame to her right. What truly made Miller's stomach clench was the context. She was on the Bobolink Trail, the very path near where the camera was found, kilometers from her apartment, and in the opposite direction she should have been heading home. The next image was even more disturbing. It was highly pixelated, taken just a minute after the previous one. It showed a figure, indistinct and partially obscured by shadow, standing a short distance behind Sarah. The figure was tall, broad-shouldered, seemingly wearing a dark jacket. It was impossible to make out any facial features, but the presence was undeniable, ominous. It wasn't Chloe, it wasn't anyone Sarah's family or friends recognized. The final photo was a dark, confused blur of earth and leaves, as if the camera had been dropped or forcefully knocked from someone's hand. The discovery sent shockwaves through the Thompson family, reopening wounds that had never truly healed. For Mark and Alina, it was a confirmation of their darkest fears. Sarah hadn't run away. She had been taken. The police immediately reopened the case. The new evidence, though 7 years old, was explosive. It proved Sarah had been on the Bobolink Trail that night, and that someone else had been there with her. The camera's location, buried where it had been, strongly suggested it was either discarded by her assailant or dropped during a struggle. Investigators swarmed the area of the camera's discovery, using updated forensic techniques, hoping to find anything else missed during the initial, less comprehensive searches. They found remnants of an old, faded sneaker print near where the camera was unearthed, partially obscured by the construction site's churned earth, too degraded to be useful. They found no other personal items belonging to Sarah. The trail, once a place of serene beauty, now carried the heavy weight of a past crime. The police appealed to the public again, releasing the last few recovered images, particularly the one with the shadowy figure. They hoped someone, after all these years, might recognize the person or even the specific location on the trail. The news spread quickly through Boulder and beyond. Old friends and acquaintances of Sarah resurfaced, offering new perspectives, hoping to help. The shadowy figure in the photograph became the new focus of the investigation. Detective Miller brought in forensic imaging specialists, but the quality of the 2001 digital camera combined with the damage and time meant very little could be enhanced. It was just a shape, a presence. Was it someone Sarah knew, an acquaintance, a fellow student, a stranger? The fact that she was on that trail, so far from her apartment, suggested either she was led there, forced there, or had a reason to be there. But what reason would she have had at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night, alone, when she was supposed to be studying? The camera had given them a terrifying glimpse into Sarah's last moments, confirming the foul play her family had always suspected. It provided a concrete location, a time window, and the chilling visual of an unknown companion. But it didn't provide a name. It didn't provide a motive. It didn't provide an identity for the figure that had haunted the edges of the frame. The path to closure, once seemingly illuminated, now merely revealed the true depth of the darkness. The case of Sarah Thompson remained open, a cold comfort for her parents, a testament to a life brutally cut short, and a haunting reminder that some mysteries, even with the most shocking of discoveries, refuse to yield their secrets completely. The Flatirons still stand guard over Boulder, but for those who knew Sarah, they now whisper not of dreams, but of an enduring, chilling enigma.